Hi, welcome to The Inner Way. I'm your host, Father David Smith. I've been away for a little while, but I've taken a little opportunity today to sort of catch up a little bit on our study of Unseen Warfare, the great spiritual classic. I don't want to lose our train of thought as we go through this marvelous book. We're here in Switzerland, my wife and I, and we're actually standing outside of Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church in St. Gallen, Switzerland. We're having a wonderful time, even though it's a bit chilly over here. Today we're going to look at the 24th chapter of Unseen Warfare. The title of the chapter is simply the general lessons in the use of the senses. This is a remarkable chapter in that it is very practical. In fact, it is so practical that sometimes it seems just a little bit difficult, because he is writing chiefly to monastics. And so consequently there are strictures that are really very difficult for us to practice. However, I like to read the chapter because the idea is there. The idea there to watch where you put your eyes. He's not only talking about lust and things like that, but where do you put your eyes in terms of, you see a nice car go by and you stare at the nice car and you think, boy, I would like that nice car. Or you drive by a nice house and you stare at the nice house. The sin begins, or desire begins, in the looking at things. That when you look, you begin the desire, and then that leads to sin, whether it's just jealousy or distrust in God, or whatever the case may be. It can lead to sin. There is a part of this chapter toward the end that I would like to read. To the same category belong all other comforts of the flesh, such as frequent baths, 2 beautiful houses, soft carpets, costly furniture, soft beds, and lounging on them. Beware of all this, since it is dangerous to your chastity, and it is the near cause of excitement of impure movements and impulses to carnal lusts and actions, lest you inherit the fate of those whom the prophet Amos threatens. Woe to them that lie on beds of ivory and stretch themselves upon their couches. From the prophet Amos. Now, again, there is a heavy emphasis on this chapter on lust, on the eyes, the ears, touching, and things like that. And that comes out here again. But the reason I read that passage is because, I bathe every day. I wonder if that's too frequent. I would venture to say that the author of Unseen Warfare would say that's too frequent. I also have a nice house. I also have a really nice bed. Mattress was needlessly expensive, I think, but still it is a nice bed. And yes, I spend time in my bed. I occasionally will even take an afternoon nap and really enjoy getting my rest. So what this is saying is that, these are things that lead us to sin. And so it is important for us to keep that in mind, to know that the plenty that we have in this world is completely different than it was for Christians 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, that life was very different for them, and that it's important for us to adjust the way that we allow the comforts of this world to affect our lives. I'm going to finish with a paragraph. It's actually the last paragraph of this chapter. It has a thought that I am always very impressed with. As a certain monk Jobius in the books of the patriarch Photius says, the devil resembles an antlion, since he always begins a man's ruin by first casting him into small sins, just as an ant is small, and then, when the man becomes accustomed to such small sins, he casts him into greater. So equally, the devil at first seems weak and small as an ant, and later he appears like a powerful giant, a great lion. This word antlion is something that I have actually researched, I've run into in other situations, and it's an ancient concept that there are either ants that are very large or very vicious, and while it seems like they're very small things compared to a lion or compared to something that a bear or something like that, they can cause great destruction because things start out small and they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I call this the ladder of descent. You know, there's a ladder of divine ascent. There is also a ladder of descent. And you step on the first rung of that ladder, and if you're not careful, you're going to step on the second rung. And if you're not careful, you're going to step on the third. Now, the devil isn't going to take you and stick you on the seventh rung, because you're going to say, I would never do anything like that. I would never even think anything like that. But he can get you to go on the first rung and then the second. And by the time you get to the sixth, the seventh rung doesn't look like that big of a deal. And so this is the kind of thing that I think about when I think about, the paragraph I read about too frequent baths and comfortable houses and beds. These are the kinds I think about. The devil works his way in these small things and these things that we kind of take for granted, and then they become bigger and bigger and bigger. Brothers and sisters, it's a lifelong pursuit to avoid getting into those bigger sins. I pray that all of us have the strength and the watchfulness, the nepsis, to be able to notice the devil's attacks and stand up to them. Well, that was chapter 24, a great chapter. Next week we have chapter 25, which I think we're going to find equally practical. I hope that you can join us for this episode next week. And until then, God bless you, and I'll see you in church.